My random commentary. I take to my house and talk to myself all day. Well, it
Sounds perfect.
So that's live.
Yeah, she's like,
nobody came in. Oh my God. She was like, there's nothing.
Zoom in. Yeah. Oh.
Last time I was at that.
Inside the work. I took it over to maybe. Bring them in. There's a whole stack of that shit.
So.
You got it right there. Jackie, you ready to go? Well, good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock and I'd like to call the County Commission regular meeting for May 17th, 2022 to order. Commissioner Rivera.
Here.
Commissioner Richardson. Here. Commissioner Gosar also here. Would you stand and join me with the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So a bit of housekeeping here. The mics in the ceiling are pretty good at picking up side conversations. And so if you don't want people to hear in the internet what you're talking about, maybe step outside and have a discussion amongst yourself if you have a side conversation. If you turn your phones to vibrator off, that would be super. I'd appreciate that. Item 3, public hearing. There is none. Item 4, comments from the public. If you are here to make a comment about polling places, we will save plenty of time after Jackie Gonzalez's report there at item 18. And we'll take as much public comment as you want to give us at that point. If you have anything else that you'd like to comment about, other than that, I'd be more than happy to entertain that comment. How about online? Does anybody want to make a public comment online? You can just unmute or raise your hand. Okay, commissioners, I entertain a motion to close the public comment.
I moved up, we close the public comment period.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 5, disclosures. Commissioner Rivera.
I have none.
Commissioner Richardson.
I have none.
And Commissioner Gosar, none also. Item 6, considerations of changes on the agenda. Jennifer, looks like we have some changes.
Please, Chairman Gosar. I'd like to remove item number 20. We're going to hold that and put it on at the same time as we do the renewal license with Esri. And then I also need to remove items 25 and 26. In talking to Rob, they didn't get bids because there was some confusion from suppliers. So we're going to pull that off for now, rework the RFP a bit, and bring it back in June.
Okay, remove 20, 25, and 26.
Yes, please.
Kayla, please. Thank you.
Yes.
Chairman Gosar, if I can add an item, we received a notification from the city that they have a catering permit for the Calverman. It's for an event within the city limits, so it's just a letter to Nancy Bartholomew, the city clerk, to approve the Calverman to use their license within the city limits.
Okay,
They can go wherever on
Can we
the
put that
agenda.
at 25 and
Yeah, that's
25?
perfectly fine.
Government.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie, please.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, can I ask consideration that at the end of the agenda, we set a work session for the budget process. Within the budget calendar, we are to meet again on Tuesday, May 31st. There has not been a time that's been disclosed. Also, the treasurer, Tracy Fletcher, has meetings scheduled the time that we are going to work on balancing the budget. the week of June 8th, and we'd like to offer some additional changes within that time frame for your
Okay, I'll put that at item 26. That's all
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Anything else? Super. 7, approval of the consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion, commissioners, for approval of the consent agenda, please.
Consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Moving on to the regular agenda. Item 8, acknowledge receipts and distribution of U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Forest Reserve funds based on the Secure Rural Schools and Community Self-Determination Act of 2000 for fiscal year 2021-2022 in the amount of $352,825.24 for Title I, and direct the clerk to advertise Title III funds in the amounts of $29,053.20 for proposed authorized county projects. Tracy, good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Does the agenda say $29,053?
Yes.
It
It
does.
does.
Okay.
It should be.
25th.
It should actually say $29,056.20 for Title III projects. So I just wanted to clarify that. But this is our annual money from Forest Service for Title I. There's also Title II money, which we don't receive, that's held at the state level. And then the Title III monies, which historically we distribute half for the sheriff, half for the fire warden, but others are who qualify under those projects or expenditures are welcome to apply also after the clerk advertises.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? I entertain a motion for item 8, please.
Deb, go ahead.
I move that we approve item 8 as presented and direct the clerk to advertise Title III funds in the amount of $29,056.20 for proposed authorized county projects.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all is in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thanks, Tracy. Item 9, present for consideration, location and consolidation of the Jail Mountain Ranchettes, track 2 through 4, and other unplatted tracks as shown on the mortgage track survey. David, good evening. Floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I was Sheriff Commissioners. Midnight Star Ranch LLC's requested vacation of tracks 2 through 4 of the Jail Mountain Ranchettes. This is an old survey from the 80s. And they've also asked that these tracks be consolidated with other tracks they own. Because the Jail Mountains Ranchettes was originally signed by the county commissioners, you would have to give the approval to vacate those tracks. The consolidation piece, it doesn't really need an approval, but it's kind of a package deal. And so they're asking for approval of that.
Commissioners, any questions?
David, do you know if or do they have any plans to do something with these consolidated tracks? Any development?
No, they're consolidating it for agricultural purposes. I believe they're going to have a small ranch operation.
It's so funny, you never get, somebody asking to reverse subdivide. To reunify the, yeah.
Any other questions, commissioners? Entertain a motion for item 9, please.
I move that we approve item 9 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, David. 10, present for approval allocation of American Rescue Act CFDA 21-4.027 fund in the amount of $8,280.75 for updating signage throughout the courthouse to be ADA compliant. Christina or Bailey? Christina, looks like I have you online. Can you take that one for us? Or maybe Bailey?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear.
So the signage, all of our signs are no longer ADA compliant. They're at the incorrect height and need to be lowered. And so we thought since we were out of ADA compliance, we would go ahead and rebrand with a new logo as well. So the quote in front of you has just that, the new logo on top of bringing everything up to ADA standards. And I learned from Jackie and Bailey that we could use ARPA funding. So that's why Bailey's involved.
We didn't catch the last part, Christina. Why they didn't?
That I recently learned that we can use ARPA funding. And so that's why we got Bailey involved, because we can pull those funds from ARPA funds to bring us into compliance.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Christina or Bailey? Entertain a motion for item 10, please.
I move that we approve item 10 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And thanks, Christina. Thanks for somebody noticing to get us up to ADA compliance. It's super important in a public facility. Item 11, present for approval allocation of American Rescue Act CFDA number 21.027 fund in the amount of $33,500 for the bathroom upgrades for the Albany County Fairgrounds. Taylor and Bailey are here. Taylor, go on ahead, please.
All right, so recently the fairgrounds has started kind of doing some improvements and things, and we had purchased last fall and just got it in recently, a new piece to tie us back into city water, which did help with our pressure in the building. So this would basically upgrade all of the toilets, all of the sinks. And then it's also got a jet pump to help us with getting water into the building and out of the building a little bit more efficiently with the use of the new toilets and sinks.
Thank you, Taylor. Any questions, commissioners?
Yeah, Taylor, how does this break down? How much is the actual equipment and how much is the labor?
So the way that we had the bid done was as a bulk. So I'm not 100% sure on your answer for how it breaks down. Whenever we had originally talked to him, he said that when he orders the toilets and prices them out, he includes his labor within the price that he gives the person. So basically he just lumped it all together for us.
Okay, and he selected these fixtures and all?
He did based on the specifications that we gave him of no touch for all of the sinks and all of the toilets. And it will update some of the no touch toilets that we have now that need to be either rebuilt or the internal components are completely failing. And we had to go back to a manual flush on it.
So these are in the activity building.
Correct, yes. The Fair Board approved at their last meeting to go ahead and take on the financial aspect of redoing the rodeo office. And so this is just the activities building for both men and women's restrooms on either side.
Any other questions, commissioners? I'd entertain a motion for item 11, please.
I move that we approve the allocation of American Rescue Act fund in the amount of $33,500 for bathroom upgrades for the Albany County Fairgrounds.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 12, present for approval. Allocation of American Rescue Act CFDA 21.027 fund in the amount of $280,000 for the bathroom upgrades for Albany County Fire District Number 1 at Beta Volunteer Fire Department, Big Laramie Volunteer Fire Department, Tie-Siding Volunteer Fire Department. Luke, good evening. Floor is yours.
I would like to add that on this, it does say specifically Big Laramie Volunteer, Tie-Siding Volunteer, and also Beta Volunteer Fire Department. But it didn't note some of the other departments that we have within inside of our district. I remind the board that we have 2,100 square miles, 11 stations, 3 of which have working bathroom facilities. So with that, Waikolo is not represented on this presentation. Centennial is not listed as well. So just want to note that.
So it means the list isn't all inclusive.
It means that $280,000 does sound like a lot of money for 3 listed departments, for which we actually have 5 meeting houses. We have 11 stations, 5 of which are meeting houses, and so not all of them are represented. Specifically for even those meeting houses that are bathrooms that do have running facilities are not ADA. I know there's a lot of questions because it sounds like a lot of money, but when you break down what it costs to put in an ADA bathroom into a meeting house that's inside the county, it's pretty expensive.
Well, don't some of those buildings not have wells? I mean, like you're starting at developing the water source and the sewage, you know,
That is correct.
you have a dry pole barn or whatever that, you know, a shop that has to have services created for it. And
That's
the
correct.
reason for that.
That's correct.
Luke, so then on the request document, it has the total request that being 240,000, but in the item on the agenda, it has 280,000. So that's in consideration of the.
That's in consideration of,
Left off.
sorry, yep, that's, part of that consideration is due to the increase in cost and everything. Originally Centennial had gotten a bid on a well that was around $25,000. When they started to try to pursue that well, it turned into $45,000 and then thereafter turned into $65,000. So they're still working on getting that well into working order, and it's tripled in cost so far. So any construction will go through the RFP process. I don't have a hard number in terms of an estimate.
Any other questions, commissioners?
So you may not spend it all. I mean, because that's an allocation, but you don't have all the numbers back.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
And is it the intention, Luke, to put it out through the RFP over on the internet site that we use now for RFPs?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion for item 12, please.
I move that we approve item 12 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Luke, you got talked to a Laramie fighter this week, and a group of your folks should be congratulated for the work that they did on the fire over the weekend. I'm pretty surprised by the time you got out there, you guys already did handles, they turned around and drove home.
Appreciate that. I'll pass it along. They do a great job.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
That was Saturday, midday. Well, somebody's barn was on fire.
Item 13, ratify application of the Wyoming Office of Homeland Security for the 2022 State Homeland Grant Program for the purpose of securing funds to support the purchase of BioSeal equipment to support emergency response in association with the Albany County Coroner's Department, the amount of $2,172.55. Bailey, thank
Good
you.
evening, commissioners. This application was submitted on behalf of the coroner's office. She had put in a request for this BioSeal equipment system. If there were to ever be some sort of terrorist attack on our community, and the deceased would need to be sealed, this would help with that process and make it easier. And it was something that she had brought to me that she wanted, so we put in the request for it for her.
Commissioners, any questions for Bailey? I don't see her.
Betty, do you know if these bags are safe for cremation?
I do not know that. I know that they're military graded, and the whole point of them is to keep whatever that was caused the disease from spreading, and that was the whole point of it. But I don't know about the cremation piece. I can reach out to Jennifer if you'd like. Okay.
It'd be interesting to know what the shelf life is.
Like
if they can last 10 years, or if there's some point where you have to throw them all out.
I believe it's like 25 years. They last
they
a
last
long time.
Yeah.
Oh, 15 years. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, at least it wasn't like 5 years or anything.
Mhm.
With the SHSP funding, a lot of times, at least for what the coroner can request, it can't just be for regular use. So she can't just request body bags for regular use. It has to be in the intent that if there were something to happen here, that then she would be prepared for it.
Maybe she can after they expire. Then
Maybe.
then they would cease to be biohazard
Yeah.
bags and just become regular ones.
Because she was looking at just requesting regular body bags, but just for the regular use, and they told us we were not allowed to do that. So.
Right.
Speaker, under the budget narrative, it says these bags have a 49-year shelf life. and is ideal for long-term storage.
Wow.
Wow. All right. I entertain a motion for item 13.
I move that we approve item 13 as presented.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Bailey. Item 14, ratify application for the Wyoming Office of Homeland Security for the 2022 State Homeland Grant Program for the purpose of securing funds to support security measures at the Albany County Road and Bridge building in association with the Albany County Sheriff's Office in the amount of $56,700. Rob, good evening.
Commissioners, first of all, I'd like to thank Sheriff Buckland for allowing us to kind of piggyback onto some of the security, Homeland Security grant money. And also to Bailey for doing put these applications together. The purpose of this is to put a new entrance gate into our facility that is somewhat like, or hopefully exactly like what the sheriff's has going into the evidence building. Purpose of doing this is we feel we have a lot of equipment, fuels, and things that we need to secure inside our yard. And also with this gate, it allows use the badges so you can tell who gained access, you know, and so you basically would know who's been in the yard.
How many components does this need? For all employees or?
I'm assuming that we already have our badges that.
I think it'll just be how evidence storage is. It should just be on our regular badges.
So basically, maybe Sheriff Bob will have to clarify, but I think we designate whose badges would be active. So there could be at least 10 people. There could be 20.
Okay.
Any other questions, commissioners? I entertain a motion for item 14, please.
I move we approve item 14 as presented.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, same side, please.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Sheriff. Appreciate it. Item 15. Ratify grant application, Wyoming Office of Family Services, Community Juvenile Services Board in the amount of $63,008, utilizing funds from July 1st, 2022 through June 30, 2023. Bailey.
This application, as you may or may not know, the state decided this year to renew the funding for this program. Albany County has applied for it since 2015. After working with Kurt and Steve Haniger for Big Brothers Big Sisters, the plan is to pass through all the funding for diversion services at Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Commissioners, any questions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion for 15 then, please.
I move that we approve item 15 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 16. Present for approval application for the 2022 Local Government Energy Improvement Retrofit Grant to the Wyoming Energy Authority, the amount not to exceed $25,000 to replace lighting at the Albany County Fairgrounds. Taylor, thank you.
Hello again. So this is going to be used for in hopes of making the activities building more energy efficient, as well as the beef barn. If we have enough proceeds to go over to the beef barn, but our main priority right now is to improve the lighting in the activities building.
Commissioners, any questions? I know this doesn't get a whole lot of people excited, but this gets me excited. Ready energy retrofits.
Yes.
Yay. I entertain a motion for item 16. Thanks, Taylor.
Move that we approve item 16 as presented.
Second,
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, same sign.
That weird lighting isn't getting any younger. It just keeps getting more funky and weird. You know, I mean, at some point, you'll be able to buy bulbs for it.
And it saves money. So it's entertaining, right? It's really important. Item 17, present for consideration, contestation of Albany County nonprofit ARPA allocations. Bailey.
And Commissioners, at your last meeting, I had brought forward our recommendations for the ARPA funding regarding the nonprofits. We do have a few agencies here that would like to contest those decisions. Before they start, I would like to just mention a few things for you guys. Out of the agencies that we heard from that plan to contest tonight is VOA, Volunteers of America, Cathedral Home, Feeding Laramie Valley, and Hospice of Laramie. I don't believe there's anybody else, but if somebody comes forward tonight, I could, they're welcome to. Out of those 4 that do plan to contest, Cathedral Home was already funded $150,000. The other 3 were not funded at all. Before you hear them, I want to just kind of go over the options I have in my mind for you guys tonight. You guys can leave the decision as is from where you guys left it last time. You guys are welcome to make changes at this time, and I can make note of them, and then we can move forward from there. You can request the applicant to amend their applications, and you can sit back on it a few weeks if you so choose. The outcome can be different for each applicant. There's no structure for you guys, and if you guys think of another option, you're more than welcome to do it. But do you have any questions for me before we get started?
Commissioners, any questions for Bailey?
The only question I have is that as I remember, the main reason why the funding, it was an obstacle for us to fund them is that there were some questions about completeness for, the applicability of the, the conformity to the rubric, to the rules. And so I'm curious if the app, I don't know if they've presented anything to you for you to review.
We've not, since your approval 2 weeks ago, we've not asked them for anything else. We've just asked them to let us know if they plan to contest today.
Gotcha.
It did go off of the rubric or the scoring rubric that the review committee has set. And the applicants, either their applications were not strong applications, they didn't have eligible items. We had found out a few other items had come up after looking at their applications. So the decision is yours to make. Those were just our recommendations that we brought to you last time. So there were 2 that we felt ARPA does not fall. There are 2 applications that came in that we feel the final rules of ARPA do not fit. This is not a qualified project. One of them they do not plan to contest. The other one was Feeding Laramie Valleys. Their essential sustainability food security, I believe. So if you choose to fund those, we do need to go over some more things. We will have to ask them to amend that, or you will have to ask the Laramie Valley to amend that, but the other one decided not to contest. Other than that, the choice is yours, and just let me know how I can.
Thanks, Bailey. And I guess in no particular order other than alphabetical, if we could go Cathedral Home, Feeding Laramie Valley, Hospice, and then VOA. So Cathedral Home, you guys are up, please. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you guys for letting us be here. Appreciate your effort and your work for our community. Bailey, you and your grants office, thank you for your assistance in this process. We are grateful for the award amount that we have received so far, and we are excited to get to work on offering outpatient counseling to our community as it's in desperate need. Commissioner Gosar, we thank you for your correspondence with our board member, Gary Negich. And we have prepared a supplemental packet of information to your specific questions that I'd like to hand out at the end if that's appropriate. And just let me know if that is. I want to use my time here tonight to address the language used in our award notification letter. County staff decided that $617,000 of proposed funding will not be funded because the benefit to Albany County youth, we feel, is not great enough for the proposed amount. The Data Resource Center for Child and Adolescent Health tells us that 53% of youth in Wyoming were not receiving needed counseling before the pandemic. And now, after the last 2 years, suicide is the leading cause of death for kids 10 and older. Emergency room visits related to mental health have skyrocketed, and people in our community are waiting months to receive needed counseling due to provider caseload demands. Youth in Cathedral Homes residential treatment program are part of a demographic that the Surgeon General says have waited more than 11 years to get the care that they need. Their risks of self-harm and substance use are significantly higher than their peers who have not experienced childhood trauma. We are here to advocate for them and urge that this committee reconsider its statement expressing the benefit to Albany County youth we feel is not great enough. The benefit is more than enough. 100% of the youth we're advocating for have experienced significant childhood adversity and trauma, which impacts not only their day-to-day mental health, but also their ability to thrive in school, to be healthy adults, to form lasting relationships, and contribute meaningfully in their communities. Our residential service is an intensive treatment intervention that requires round-the-clock care from highly trained staff, certified master teachers, and expert clinical therapists, all of which are imperative for youth in residential at potentially their most critical point in time. They participate in school and therapy aimed at helping them to cope with traumatic memories and build skills for their futures. They learn to see themselves as significant and capable. The benefit is most definitely great enough. When youth have the opportunity to receive and complete residential treatment at Cathedral Home, they are less likely to harm themselves, to participate in dangerous activities, to use substances, or to consider or attempt suicide. 94% do not require the same or higher level of care after completing their program at Cathedral Home. In 2021, 85 young people between the ages of 12 to 18 received residential treatment at Cathedral Home. 69% of those, or 59 of the 85, came to Cathedral Home having exhibited suicidal behavior. 71 of them, or 84%, have been physically, emotionally, or sexually abused. Those self-harm and suicidal ideation numbers decreased by 43% when their needs were met with compassionate care. So if nothing else comes from tonight, let it be that this committee reconsiders their position that the benefit is not great enough. Wyoming youth suicide rates increased by 40% in 2 years. And if we have any hope of addressing this crisis, we cannot use language that says help isn't worth it. If we hope to reduce stigma, offer dignity, and do something to help the young people of Albany County, we can neither say nor imply that people are not worth it. We cannot print on county letterhead that the benefit of behavioral health services are not significant, because they absolutely are. We are talking about children, families, insurmountable hurdles and resilience, and healing that comes from feeling safe and having what you need when you need it, no matter what it costs. Thank you for your time. And like I said, I have information if that's appropriate.
Sure. Yeah, I'm in it for any question or two that we might have. Commissioners, any questions? Thank you.
Nicole, I think, to clarify, I think why the committee was thinking that it wasn't efficient use of funds is because according to your application, on the average, this would only be serving 3 county youths. Is that correct?
So we went based off of the ARPA rules and the time frame that we were told to go off of. So we looked at the youth that we have served prior, Albany County youth, and then looking at historical trend data, projecting out. So it would be 8 youth. And I think that is the point here. That is kind of the catching point. And I will say those 8 youth are worth it. The 3 that we've served, this youth that we will continue to serve are worth the amount that we are requesting for help.
Commissioner Bear.
Well, the 8 that you served before, that was March 2020 to March 2022. Your application indicates that for April 2022 to March 2023, you'd be serving an average of 3 kids, not an additional 5, not an additional 8, just 3. And I think that might have been the reason why the committee thought your request for 616,000 plus to serve 3 kids is an awful lot of money for the amount of children that we serve.
It is, and I would also say you guys approved bathroom renovations that a certain population will only use. And I am speaking on behalf of 3 youth that potentially need this life-saving treatment. And it's a service that we've already offered. It's a service we will continue to offer. We don't have an opportunity to ask the county for help. The county has been given ARPA money to spend. I've been told you guys have either 5 million, 7.5 million. The amount that's been listed here is 1.2 million. So it feels like there's money that can be given back to our youth in our community. And I'm coming before the county as using this opportunity to ask to help us get through these difficult times financially. And so that is part of the request, yes.
Yeah, just to qualify, it's 7.5 million total. And that is over the 4 tenets of response to COVID-19, infrastructure, broadband, and then to nonprofits or people that are most adversely affected, generally people in poverty who bear the brunt of COVID-19 by being in poverty. And so those are ways we have to allocate the money. So we're trying to have fidelity to those rules. And I really want you guys to know, as a former youth worker there, I understand the work that's done there and how hard it is. And then please don't take a slight if we are unable to fund it fully. We only have a $7.5 million. And the hits to nonprofit organizations throughout Albany County in the last 2 years would dwarf that amount of money. So we're trying to do the best we can with what we have. So thank you.
I very much understand that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, but the total amount is 7.5 million one-time funds. So it won't be re-upped for us. And I think as far as counties go, since the final rules were proposed in January and they went into effect April 1, I don't know of another county who's invested as much in its nonprofit sector as a percentage, nor the amount of money in its nonprofit sector. We have more to do. But 1.2 was the initial glance at nonprofits. So that represents, some 15, 20% of that money. We're trying. We'll get it right. And I thank you for coming here and giving us a little more insight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that it's just a question of stewardship among competing priorities. It's not to say that we value something over another. It's just in human terms, it's about return on investment, right? And it's not to value one life over another. It's just with finite resources, we have to make sure we have the most benefit to the most people. And it's hard to be in this position. It's, because those are hard decisions to make.
Absolutely. Yeah, no easy spot, but I owe it to the families and the youth that we work with to stand up and say they're worth it. So,
Yeah, well, thank you, board members, for sending us notes. And thank you for this. I mean, I will use this to relook over the work.
thank you
Thanks
all.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
All right, thanks, Nicole. Being Laramie Valley.
Thank you to the Cathedral Home for your eloquence and the power and importance of your words. Good evening, Chairman Gosar, Commissioner Ibarra, and Commissioner Richardson. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to have this time to speak with you on this matter. In the time that I sat here when Bailey was up here speaking, I've learned maybe 200% more about this process than I have known up until this point. So part of my challenge tonight was I've been looking for some guidance in terms of preparation and what I needed to prepare and what you were looking for. My experience with, or Feeding Laramie Valley's experience with the award letter, the award notification was simply that we would not be funded. And so, but that we did have this opportunity to contest, much appreciated. I contacted the Bailey's office and asked for information in order to help prepare. Could I either email questions or have a phone conversation just to get some information? And I was told, you can get your questions answered at the hearing. From that point on, I did send an email to Commissioner Ibarra asking just for some process guidance because I was very concerned about the process and I wanted to be able to prepare helpfully. And I did not receive a response back. And finally, I went back to Bailey's office and said, can you just even tell me what the process will allow? Because I didn't know if this was just a perform a stand up and tell us you're not happy and go away, or if there were options. And so she did at that time let me know that what she had informed you of, you had options. So I thought, okay, that was good to know. Also in the award letter, it said, well, in previous emails, we were told that if we were not funded or if there were changes made, that there would be detailed reasons put in our award notification. And so I was pleased to hear that Cathedral Home did receive some detailed reasons, not very positive ones, but there were, at least there was some sense of where they needed to go with their response. I wrote to Bailey's office, I believe it's the grants manager, who had sent me that information, said, I believe that the details of why we were not funded were left out. And I was told, no, you were given a reason. The reason was upon recommendation of the review committee. So I'm giving this preface simply to say that I kind of was like going without much guidance in terms of how to prepare my response to the fact that none of the proposals that we made were funded at all. So the best that I can do then is to let you know what our reasoning was behind it. One thing that when we first began this process way back last fall, and you were looking for what are your ideas, what are you thinking, I had submitted 3 components to one proposal, which was emergency funds, safety and prevention, and sustainable prevention in the future, which is how I was reading the ARPA guidelines that we had at that time. I did contact Bailey and I said, do you want me to submit this as one application? Or would you prefer I break it down? And she wrote back and said, please submit 3 separate applications. This will give the commissioners an opportunity to sort out what pieces maybe qualify or don't, or, you know, just kind of break things out. So I was a little surprised when she mentioned tonight that that we were denied because it didn't qualify, but that was just one part. So I think what I have to say might be helpful in helping to sort out what we were asking for and go back over that. So we were in early November, we also requested emergency funds for recovery costs for between April 20 and September 21. For the unexpected blast of emergency need for fresh produce that is provided by Feeding Laramie Valley. In April of 2020, we were spending $300 a week maximum for supplemental food and fresh produce. And by January or by September of last year, we were spending $1,200 a week. And so, and that was awarded, that emergency funding was awarded in March, and much appreciated. That took care of past the first year of the pandemic. Little did we know things were actually going to explode and get worse. So since that time, just in general, in terms of what we're dealing with, food costs are nearly 9% higher now than in March of 2020, with a predicted overall additional food price increase in 2022 of about 6%. So currently, that means that in Laramie, people are spending about $90 per week per person for groceries in general, not just produce, which equals about $387 per month per person. And that comes out to about $18,576 a year in food alone for one person. If you were to be lucky enough to have a minimum wage job that pays $15 an hour, and you're working 40 hours a week for 52 weeks, you would be earning $31,200 a year. So now you're already paying over $18,000 a year in food. The average monthly rent in Laramie between January and March 22, it rose from $634 a month to $756 a month, just in the first few months of this year. So now you're paying an average of over $9,000 a year just in rent. So this, for food and rent alone, is going to cost you $28,000 a year as an individual person in Laramie, Wyoming right now. So if you are lucky enough to be making $31,000 a year, you're obviously don't have much left over for anything else. Transportation, health insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So we also all kind of know this, but the average price of gas in Laramie currently is around $3.80 a gallon, if you're lucky, and the average price of diesel is around $5.50 a gallon. And we all know that that's a huge, huge recent increase. Some of the other things that have happened are, you have some handouts if you want them to support this data. The one major thing that has occurred is that the COVID-related SNAP supplement to assist people who are already receiving SNAP and helping them buy groceries is now gone from Wyoming. So that is no longer available as of April. So as prices are increasing, benefits and assistance is going away and decreasing. I don't know how many of you had a chance or even wanted to listen to the news today, but part of what was in the news is that Walmart is not doing well. Their profit margin is way down. They're just for whatever quarter losses are really high, and they're kind of beside themselves. The reason this is relevant is because that Walmart is one of the corporations that is strongly connected to Feeding America, which is strongly connected to Food Bank of the Wyoming Rockies, which, as you may already know, provides most of the food to the food banks throughout the Rocky Mountain region. And the reason I bring this up is that because also very recently, just last week, we're part of a large coalition of healthcare providers in Laramie, about 40, who meet every month and to share information and what they're doing and collaborate and do amazing things. And they've been doing this for several years now. Well, we were informed at that time, and I learned this from the director of our community engagement, Lina Dunning, who works with Feeding Laramie Valley. She helped started that group and she attends it every month. And she came back with the information. It came from the executive director of Interfaith Good Samaritan, who has told us that their donations are down from through that Walmart chain are down by 20,000 pounds of food a month. And Walmart's donations have dropped by 80%. There are also other food programs that are being wiped out and are being dropped. And these are the emergency food programs. So we talk all the time, and I think I've spoken with you, certainly Feeding Laramie Valley, we do discuss this all the time across Albany County. Emergency food is essential. And we're so glad that we have it. And Interfaith Good Samaritan has been around a long time, and we're always going to need that. It is not sustainable. And what has been proven through this, one of the things that's been proven as a result of this 2 years of pandemic is that not only was it not sustainable, it was one of the first things that got hit. So now you have people who can't even go to the emergency place and count on getting anything, let alone the nutritious food they need for themselves or their families. Pretty stunningly awful. This is just something that has just occurred, and we have not had a chance to get together with Interfaith to talk about it. But I will tell you right now what it's doing to our numbers. Feeding Laramie Valley is not a food bank or an attempt at creating a sustainable food system. In part, we do that by providing healthy, fresh, high-quality produce, teaching people how to garden, and also addressing the community in terms of trying to change our food system so that we have a sustainable way to make sure that when our system shuts down, whether it's through a pandemic or weather or whatever, that we are not all instantly food insecure. And believe me, there are a lot more people who are right now food insecure because of the cost of prices and the lack of food availability. So for Feeding Laramie Valley, our costs are higher and more people are coming to us for help. Our 85 delivery stops, which is what we were doing a month ago, are now up to 100 and going higher. And that's because people can't drive because they can't afford to drive. They don't have the fuel. And so they're asking for us to deliver. Our nearly 500 a week last month is now closer to 600 and is rising by at least 20 a month, but that's also stepping up in terms of rapidity. The other thing that's starting to happen, we know that we can't feed everyone in all of Albany County. The way we've always operated is word of mouth. And we've always, when people say, I need this, they come and we sign them up and we don't say, sorry, we don't have enough food, go away. And we've been able to do that thus far. And we've been able to do that throughout the pandemic. So, but now the word's getting out even more. Now we're getting calls from agencies. We're getting calls from low-income housing. We're getting calls from, and they're saying, oh my gosh, I just found out about this is amazing. I want to be able to put out a sign-up sheet for our entire building, which we know that means we're going to start looking at 100 new people every week, and so forth. So this is what we're up against. Those we're saying, this is how we're handling it, is we're saying, this is true, this is the one rule we have is that the person who needs the food has to be the one to sign up. Because you can't call and say, oh, I think my friend is not getting enough fresh fruits and vegetables, I'm gonna sign them up. So that's kind of where we draw the line, and that's sort of what we've told people, and we say they're, welcome to have them come down, but we're not inviting them into the play of getting people signed up. The other thing that has happened is that the summer, so this has changed as of a few days ago, summer meal programs, all of the exceptions have been taken away. So during the height of the pandemic, I'm not exactly sure where we're at with it now, but during the first 2 years of the pandemic, let me put it that way, the summer food program took away its exceptions. So we have always, for many, many years now, we've provided a summer lunch program free as required by USC partially helps to fund this, and for children 0 to 18. And they can just walk in and get a hot meal that we make from scratch with fresh food. During the first 2 years of the pandemic, they took away the exception. We were only allowed to do it if school was not in session. So their thinking was, if school is in session, kids are getting, that's what we pay for. But if school is not in session, and so then it was mostly a summer program. But they also were not allowing, or they were not, we could do it if we paid for it all, but they were, so weekends and holidays and that sort of thing. When this all happened, they took away the exceptions. So we were doing meals all summer, all weekend, so 7 days a week, and on the weekends throughout the year. So we increased all of that. We heard in April that the food exceptions were going away. We must now return to congregate meals. People must be able to come to your place and eat the meal there. That was always the original rule that they took away during the last 2 years. So people could, they would come and they could like eat out in the parks, but mostly they came, picked up the meals and went away. That was taken away. I think there was a big brouhaha about that. So we have now been informed a few days ago, and that's part of what I based our proposal on, was that we can't do it. We don't have the space to do it safely. So they took that away and they said, you can do a hybrid, try to have as many congregate meals you can. If you have to do some takeaway meals, you can still do that, but it's temporary. Pretty soon we're going to require that you go back to, everyone has to eat their food there before they leave. And then the other thing is that we remain the only full summer food program in Albany County. There is one during the summer school session, which in Linford, I am told that's only 3 weeks long. So we're in Labadie Park on the east side of town. It's great, it's wonderful, people love it, but it is not accessible to everybody by any means. And at least 50% of the children we serve are unaccompanied by adults. So they're getting there by themselves. So they're obviously not gonna, hopefully, they're not gonna come all the way over. The other thing that has happened that spawned a lot of this, our proposals, is that the city of Laramie and, well, they were supporting it. The Kiwanis Club came to us and said, West Laramie needs a summer lunch program. It's a desperate need. We've been visiting with them. The poverty rates are high there. The kids have no supervision. There's nothing. We really, please open a site in West Laramie. And they backed that with a grant of their own. They could not come close to what we needed to do to just launch that site. Once it's launched, it's a little easier for us to do it. So we have all of this need and then all of these factors going on, and that's some of what is behind what I proposed, or what we proposed. All the projects, so you received 3 project proposals from us, which really are all linked together. They are all for July 1st, 2022 to December 31, 2023, which covers that. We are in the process. We have multiple grants and fundraisers and things going on and work with the city for our long-term vision, which has always been about creating a food hub and creating a much larger capacity for growing and distributing food locally. We're working on that a lot, and we're getting a lot of support for that. What we're looking for now is how do we still address this emergency and buy us the time to get there. So would it be helpful for you to have our budgets to look at, or do you have them? Well,
The budgets, what you submitted for your grants, Gail,
yes,
or?
you have the, yes, you do have that.
Yeah, we
Okay,
have
great.
that. Yeah, I'm sure we
Okay,
have.
so I can just reference it. Just pull up my. I'll start with project 3. Okay. So there it is. Okay, project one. Again, this was upon recommendation from Bailey that we separate these into 3 separate projects. And of course, each of these has different sections and different line items. So the first one is recovery and immediate food security. So again, this is addressing how do we stay on top of, get out ahead of our $5,000 a month bill for just food alone, not to mention fuel and getting it to people and all of that. One of the things that happens, and I know some of you have written a number of grants, so you understand that a lot of what makes grants more appealing is, and they expect the organizations asking for money to contribute. So I also want to remind you that everything that's in these pockets are direct costs. We are still covering all of the infrastructure, all of the salaries, all of the, like everything else that's required to keep it going, all of the overhead. That is not in anything that we're asking for in any of these grants, and any of these requests. So the first one is, then we have a healthy foods section. And again, this is to help us at $1,200 a week, which is far below what we're actually spending and what we expect to be spending. But we're asking for $1,200 a week for 60 weeks to help with the fresh food, just procuring the fresh produce. The other thing that I did want to mention too, in regard to the cost of food and all of that, because there are times when I feel like sometimes I wonder what people go through to come to us to pick up a bag of produce. It's like, it sort of amazes me. I mean, what that feels like to have to go to someone and say, please, have some vegetables, fruits and vegetables, but also like the cost of it all. So when we spend $1,500 a week, we're paying $2.50 per person to get that food in terms of what we're currently serving. So I just want to put that in perspective. And what they would be paying, this is a savings of at least $350 a month for people. So that makes more sense to me when I understand. And it costs us very little per person. And that number keeps going down because we keep getting more people, we keep stretching it. So we're asking for that. One of the things that we're doing to help with sustainability and to increase access is we're getting ready. We've been working on it for the last year. But we have a renovated bus that is becoming a mobile market. And so it's a mobile healthy food market that's going to be traveling throughout all of Albany County and in underserved neighborhoods in Laramie. And this is a market for everyone. So people will purchase food at this market. This is not Feeding Laramie Valley driving around to hand out food. This is actually, we're selling. Now we're making that accessible because we will be accepting SNAP. We're applying for prescription programs to help pay for that. People will get prescriptions to get food, and also SNAP incentives. At the same time, anyone can shop here, and that's the beginning of creating a revenue stream that starts to make this entire thing ultimately sustainable. Feeding Laramie Valley needs to pay for itself. That's our goal. So that when we have to share food at no cost with people, there is a revenue stream that's covering that. So we're just asking to help to get us to that point. We're asking for fuel for healthy food delivery, which would be both the bus and the mobile market and our deliveries of estimated 25 gallons of diesel fuel per week, $5 a gallon, which is lower than it has been. It's $7,500, again, for 60 weeks. So this is that entire part of that. Then we're also asking for food distribution supplies. So this is not quite as maybe is impressive or touchy-feely, but this is to food distribution materials. So this is packaging, all the supplies that we have to safely get people the food. We are asking for 2 tablets in order to be able for the mobile market, and some outreach materials. We're also looking for an upright cooler for the mobile food delivery. We're missing 1 cooler for the mobile market. The rest has been outfitted, and a backup generator, which is the high cost item there. And then food storage supplies, we realized by adding the mobile market, we're gonna use up our storage space. And so there's a cooler, again, under the $5,000 threshold for equipment. We're asking for a cooler there. And I do want to note that recently we found 2 places they've gotten money to replace all their coolers, so we may be able to inherit some coolers. So that's what I do. That's project 1. Project 2 is the one that I believe that Bailey referenced when she said she isn't certain that this meets ARPA guidelines. I disagree, or I would have submitted it in terms of my reading. I also just came from some meetings with people who are doing similar work to us, some training meetings in Durango. Their county ARPA funds are being used to build them a building for their food hub. So so I know that I'm not sure it may be a desire of this county, which is completely understandable, legitimate, but I'm not sure that it's not, and we're not asking for that. So this one is to help us launch a small scale version of the food hub that we'll be building over the next few years. I think I've mentioned before, we already have partnerships lined up with Sheila Farms, Cody Humphrey Ranches, and Ivanson Memorial Hospital to actually start building this food hub and create what we believe over the next 3 years will mean that we are providing local produce to all of the institutions in Albany County. And the money made from that will support farmers and ranchers, will increase agriculture production, and will help pay for our emergency food costs when they will arise again. So in this one, we're asking for some coolers reaching a transport cooler that goes in the back of a truck, tables. All of these fall under the $5,000 equipment line threshold for equipment versus supplies. I am asking for 3 small portable sheds. I have them all over my ranch. They're like really inexpensive. They're easy to move. They are not a building. They are portable. And I've talked with my dealer on that, and they can get me what we need for under $5,000 each. I did wonder if that might be a question, and like that's my argument for it all. It's not a building, it's not construction, and it's under the $5,000 threshold. Those would be added to our existing modular buildings that we're contributing to this project to create in the design for the food hub, and it will help us finalize the pieces that we need for that. And then there are processing tools and other things that are specific to processing produce. So that the whole point behind needing a food hub is that our local farmers and ranchers cannot provide food to the institutions here because they can't afford to do the food safety processing and storage and delivery that is required at that level. So the food hub is elevating the potential for local agriculture to be able to, they all want to sell locally, but they have to send it away because they can't do it on their farm and ranch. The food hub will do that for them. Pick it up. They can do, what they do is they process in the field what they can immediately, and they can then sell at the farmer's market. They can sell to Big Hollow, those kinds of things. They can't go to institution. It needs to be taken immediately into cold storage, processed, and it, like the warm air can never touch it. It's basically the bottom line there. So that's what all of those items are for, and all of that is $13,000 to launch Albany County into a new day where we can prepare. Like we don't have to be the next formula disaster because we didn't see it coming. Because we do see it coming. We've experienced it. We can prevent that. And then there are some food supplies as well that are delineated in there. I don't need to go over that. And then finally, project number 3, which is just the third component, is for the health and safety of our children. And this is the item that delineates what we need to be able to now offer. What we know now is a safer way of providing meals to children throughout the summer and any other time of year that they'll let us or need us to do that. So it's a combination of, so it's basically trying to find a way to do that. It's purchasing some tents, enough tables and chairs so we can keep people far enough away. So even if they have a cold, they're not spitting all over each other. It's basic things, tables, chairs, tents. And what's included in this is, so that's to make it safer. We're busting at the seams where we are in Albany Park. So it allows us to serve the larger numbers. We were serving 200 kids a day last summer. We expect that to go higher this year. That's Albany Park. This also adds those same needs if we were then to open up that service. And it's needed, it's desperately needed to have a site in West Laramie as well. The neat thing about that is that we would be able to do it right next to our community garden. So the kids, so people coming to get their lunches there would be introduced to the gardening. We can bring the mobile market there. It just opens up a whole new way of reaching and bringing in West Laramie without always having to ask them to come over here if you want something cool. Come to the east side of Laramie. The things that may look a little different. So we have we have 5 modular buildings that we own. We use for a higher bound fair, and we're always looking for other reasons to use them. And one is we call it a diner. Doesn't really have it, but it has tables and chairs in it. It has a kitchen area that's not really a kitchen yet. What we would do, we would use our current commercial kitchen for preparing the food. And then we just need the equipment to keep it hot and move it over there. Then we would have this diner there so that it could be kept warm. It could be served from there. People could eat inside in small spaces, and then a few tents and tables and chairs to create a whole new thing over there. And the city is already saying, hey, go for it. They would love to see us do that over in Kiwanis Park. So that was, we've already had that meeting. So that's why, but to move that diner over there and back twice a year, it needs new tires and wheels. So that's why you're seeing like wire tires and wheels. Thank you. But that's the listing for that. And then the rest are just because we're looking, we need to buy more plates and utensils and all kinds of things with all of these growing numbers. That's probably 3.
Commissioners, any questions for Gail?
I think that's pretty thorough, but do you have some information you want to give us to look over?
You have this stuff. So I just have, what I have is I have the backup to the, I have the Walmart information and the SNAP information and the, but I'm certainly available at any time if there's, so. And I hope, again, I don't know what the concerns were, to be perfectly frank. To me, it's like, okay. So I'm concerned that I'm failing the people who are coming to us, that I'm not explaining well enough what it takes to provide what they need in these desperate times. So please, if there's something I'm missing or if I haven't hit the thing that's really in your mind, like, I don't know, whatever it is, I would love to be able to address it. I tried to address everything I could think of.
So I just have a few questions, Gail. Did the city come with funding? Because they got ARPA funding. So when you had that discussion with the city, did the city?
I don't know anything about ARPA. Like, mostly what the city comes to me is they tell me they have no people, they have no money, and we may not have a building someday. Like, I'm sorry, but they did come and supported. But here's what they do. I will tell you what they do. They pay for our water, for all of our gardens. And they give us the land in several places. And they are back in negotiations with us for providing a large piece of land to create this entire food hub. The city has been very generous. I was not aware that they had ARPA funds that they were offering to.
Well, I'm not sure if they're offering them, but I know they have ARPA funds. And so does the school district. Have you gone to the school district with ARPA funding?
I have not.
Okay. I have to tell you, I'm uncomfortable with some of the assertions you made about staff, and this is repeatedly. They have tried their level best to do this work. And this is now the second time that I've heard expressed in a public meeting some of the shortcomings of our staff. I'm sure they're not perfect. It's really difficult to hear once you know the work that goes on behind it. I believe there were three organizations funded for emergency funding. Yours was one of them. And so the assertion that that hasn't come to Feeding Laramie Valley is just not accurate. And so we are left with $7.5 million at the end of the day. And so what might appear to be a slight, I guess, if we were to give you all the $7.5 million, what would you tell the people at Cathedral Hall or at hospice or at VOA? Those are the decisions that we have to make here. And although I like your idea, and I do think you guys do wonderful work for the community, it's best if we all work together on this. And so I would appreciate going forward if you have suggestions to improvements, that you just give us those suggestions to improvements without innuendo. Because it's been difficult to listen to, Gail. It really has. And I am a nonprofit person. And I understand the problems and the difficulties that come when the budget doesn't meet at the end of the month. But we all got to work together on this. And so we'll take a look at your 3 projects and see what we can do. And I think there's money in the USDA, but you would know better than I about some of those food hubs. I think rural and USDA, I've seen a bunch of grants coming through that discuss that. I don't look at them because I don't operate a food hub, but it would be nice if we could spread this money further. And although we'd like to spend $7.5 million right now, if we spend $7.5 million by May of 2022, and then we need $1.5 million in 2023, it's not coming to us again. So we have to be very judicious about how we spend the food, or the money. Food's important. Resources for kids who are abused, really important. End of life care, incredibly important. Mental health services, incredibly important. We'll weigh the best we can, but I'm sure we're going to come up short in everybody's eyes. But know that we are weighing and paying attention to it. So, if you have any final thoughts?
Yes, if I may respond.
Sure.
So you referenced twice that I've asserted something negative about staff.
Mm-hmm.
I have been sharing facts with you. I no judgment on staff. Trying to explain my experience with, I had questions, they were not answered. I was not responded to. I was somewhat dismissed. I'm thinking perhaps the first assertion you're referring to is a conversation that we had by telephone.
No, I'm talking about the emergency food meeting that we had in November. It was kind of very similar to, I haven't been able to respond to, I can't get anybody to talk to me. We need these food and we need it now. And everybody was in that same position.
Yeah, it's hard. And I think, and I know it's hard in your position, it's hard in our position. One of the biggest challenges we run into at Feeding Laramie Valley and the way we try to run the program is that, so we're trying to, they're the boss, like we're serving them. And the best way we can serve them is we need to be able to know what it is, what will they eat, what won't they eat, what do they need, what don't they need, those kinds of things. We're mostly dealing with people who are terrified to speak to us. They're like, if I say I don't like this, maybe don't give me anything. And I know they're actually right to have that fear. When we first started out, I remember talking to someone, we were in the community garden, I remember talking to another community member saying, oh, we have these bags and people put on them, these are our preferred foods, these are the foods we can't eat, these are the foods we don't like. And she just like, that's ridiculous. They're being given something that should be grateful for what they get. So I understand, I hear what you're saying about it's been hard for you to hear me point out these are shortcomings for all of us. This is a community that we can't be, we don't want to like go back to Oliver Twist and be timidly saying, please, sir, may I have some more? We need to be able to say, we need to be able to state, you're wrong if you say that this is, you know, that this is not valued enough. This is not enough value for what we'd be spending. Like, that's just conversation. That's a discourse. It's not innuendo. It's not insult. It's trying to say, I have a job to do, and these are the barriers that I'm up against. And these I would like you to reconsider your decisions based on the facts that as I know them and the way people have spoken to me. It takes us years, it often takes us years to get people who come to the shares program to finally say, actually, would you please stop giving me celery? I throw it out every time you give it to me. But they didn't dare say it because they were afraid we wouldn't give them anything. And that's just wrong. And really, I shouldn't have had to be terrified to not be well prepared enough, to have to figure out. I should be able to come and just say, this isn't enough. I don't agree. Please, answer my questions. I've had very few questions from you when I presented. I've had nothing to go on. It isn't criticism, but I'm not trying to do a slight or say you're doing a bad job or whatever. I'm saying I don't have the information I need. And that's fair. And it's important that not only you hear it, that we all hear it, that all of the citizens of this great community understand where the barriers are and where we need to change things. We change things every single day at Feeding Laramie Valley. I make 100 mistakes every single day at Feeding Laramie Valley. And I have staff running in crying, and I have participants yelling, and that's my job. And I know you have a hard job, but it's your job. And it's not a bad job to have $7.5 million in one-time funds, and someone who never, ever has come to you asking for money is actually asking for a piece of that. I don't need to apologize for doing this on behalf of the people I am actually serving. And so, yeah.
Well, thanks, and you have some of it already, and maybe we'll do some more.
And may I say, so that's the other thing about information, because I kept trying, I racked my brain, I thought, well, maybe they thought I already got too much, or we already got enough. I already gave her $100,000, we don't have to give them any more. That should have been clearly stated. If there was, if giving.
You're doing it again.
Funds.
I'm going to tell you a little story, but I'm going to be fast. When I was a kid growing up, I grew to 6'8", and I weighed 140 pounds, and we were so poor we couldn't pay attention. My first meal of the day was free school lunch because my mom was a single mother with 6 kids. My parents were divorced. I understand in a very visceral way what the pain is. This discussion really isn't about the purpose of Feeding Laramie Valley, whether what you do is valid. What this is about is the fact that we have a whole bunch of nonprofits in this community that can communicate effectively with grants to understand what the ARPA rules are and make sure that their grant applications met the requirements of the ARPA rules in the eyes of this commission. And the reason you didn't get funding is because you didn't communicate effectively with her to understand what we would need to bring you forward. And all I've heard tonight is you blame everybody else.
It's not blame. It's if you.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just telling you something. There's a whole room full of people, and this is codified. This is forever on our YouTube channel, right? The point is, if you want to move forward, you have to work with our grants department, who is our expert on what is allowable and not allowable. I mean, it's not that we don't know, it's that we have a lot of other jobs to do.
Well, and I'm happy to provide you with the emails where I did ask, is this allowable or is it not?
All I can tell you is
I don't know.
Is that we have a whole bunch of nonprofits who are able to communicate effectively with our grants department and who don't have very many complaints about our grants department. So I'm not prepared to sit here and say that I'm not willing to consider any of these. What happened was we could batch up a certain amount of requests because we couldn't hold all of them for the stragglers. We had to batch them up and move forward. And for one reason or another, maybe no fault of your own, there's 4 stragglers here. And this is your chance to say, hey, I want to be considered again. And I'm going to guess that all 4 of you are going to get considered. But it means that you have to start a conversation with the grants office and sort of, I mean, it's not a guarantee, but it's saying that there's a process that has to be begun after we put all the rest of the applications on the ship and sent them out of port. So that's basically where we're at. And probably no one tonight is going to get a, yeah, we'll fund you, or no, we won't. Basically, this is the start of how do you get funding if you're going to get funding, and that's going to be through Bailey. So we look forward to working, to starting this process with the last groups that, for whatever reason, it may be no fault of your own, it may be, but I mean, this commission can't award funds that don't conform to ARPA, or else they'll have to come out of the general fund, right? We have to be confident that it's going to come, that it can be paid for by ARPA and work that way. So
I do understand that. And if you would like, I would be happy to send you all of my emails between me and the questions that I posed to the press.
Well, I suspect we'll all have questions of everybody, and we'll collate them and send them forward to try to get some more detail as a commission. And then we'll go from there. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time and for listening.
And Gil, you've had a lot of time tonight. Have you felt that you were listened to?
Yes, I do. I do. Thank you.
Jessica, Dr. Conway Hospice.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for making time. I've been on your side of the table for these decisions, and I know how difficult they are. I thank you to Bailey and Brady for all the help so far. I'm here to bring for your reconsideration Laramie's request for ARPA funding. I applied at the April 15th deadline, and I understand now there was a different deadline. I wrote a really long thing, but I'll try and keep it short here. Unfortunately, I've been spending a majority of my time these last months being a nurse instead of an executive director, which is really the gist of our previous request. Staffing is difficult in the medical field, and this would be extremely helpful. It's hospice's philosophy that we don't deny end-of-life care to anyone due to financial reasons. However, the number of Albany County patients requiring free significant care has gone up quite a bit, and we hope to still be able to honor that while incentivizing good quality staff. For some perspective, when I'm seeking to hire nurses, they try and other agencies reach out and try and hire me with huge signing bonuses. So to be able to offer a little bit to our staff would be really appreciated. Hospitals and these big corporations are better suited to give these raises and incentives than a nonprofit that's doing care for free. So if there's any questions about the application itself that I can answer, in the award letter, it just said that this was different than the premium pay time. So I didn't know if there were any problems with the application that I could address, or just that it was a time frame.
And so I think, Jessica, the original premium pay was backdated to March of 2020. What was the time period?
March 2021. Actually, we did April 2021 to
2020.
Thank you. Yeah. March 2020 or April 2020 to June 30th, 2021
Right.
was our time frame that we did.
So the reading was that was premium pay. Going forward, that runs the risk of being salary. And so it doesn't necessarily fit into premium pay. I guess I don't feel like I have a complete handle on that piece of it, but I do feel comfortable that the premium pay is backdated, and that's how we adjusted it for all of our people here at the county too. And we have not offered anything going forward in the county as premium pay, because we don't want to run into the risk of it being salary. which is something that is difficult to justify and difficult to account for when you have a federal grant.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, sure.
Would it be helpful, hospice was closed for a period of time, that was before I took over. So that's not particularly helpful to the organization, which is why I structured it this way. Would it be helpful to resubmit this with a few employees that were there during that time?
It would be helpful to me, and it's probably one of my questions that I would send to you after this is done. Would be, this is what we did with premium pay. Does that fit into what hospice has to offer? Because we want to be consistent. And we totally understand shortages in folks. So, and what that means to making that happen. For people who deserve premium pay, that qualify for premium pay, we want to help them with premium pay.
Any other questions I can answer for you guys?
Anything else? Thanks.
Did you have anything you wanted to
brought,
add, Dr. Collins?
you brought your arm candy here,
Did you
Jessica, I
have
guess.
Moral support.
Well, it's just that now that we have the hospice house open again, is that we provide care, we have patients in there right now who don't pay anything because they're the poor of our community. But we take them anyway. And it is hard, as you know, to get qualified people to work there. And then when the hospital and other places are offering large bonus sums, the people that we have there now, it's a wonder they haven't left already. And gosh, I certainly don't want to see our hospice house have to close again because of lack of employees, which can certainly happen. But anyway, but we understand it was late and we just kind of missed the deadline.
I think for me personally, supplies that go towards those folks that you guys pay to take care of whatever that would be a useful way. And then maybe that would free up some general budget that you might be able to help with the salaries to be competitive.
Okay. We appreciate the feedback.
Thanks.
And look forward to doing whatever I need to do.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And then BOA. Kristen, I think you're online, and I'm not sure if anybody else is here in the crowd for BOA.
Yes, thank you, commissioners. Appreciate it this evening for all of your time. And thank you, Bailey, for the feedback and meeting briefly to provide feedback on what areas we were weak in. I want to apologize to everyone for us submitting an application in which we reviewed and asked for salaries and inappropriate things that we shouldn't have asked for on this ARPA grant. What we are coming back to ask for is the $180,000 for a new client program for homeless clients in particular to help support the clients that we've identified in working with Interfaith. Over the last 4 months, we've been able to identify and invest over $100,000 between us here at VOA here in Albany County and also Interfaith in helping to support 116 clients. And that's not necessarily unique ones. That could be combined ones between the two of us, 45 for VOA and 71 for Interfaith. We're looking to develop this program to help support then providing case management services, therapy, and skills training for these clients to help support them in getting secure housing. So funding them in motels and helping to pay first and last month's rent to get them into secure housing so that they are sustainable. I could certainly go into some additional detail, but I also know that I have spent individual time with each one of you, and I thank you for your time already on that. I want to be respectful this evening of the time that has been consumed, and I can cut it short if that would be helpful this evening, or I can certainly go into additional detail. And I'm happy to work more with Bailey on this if a written response would be appropriate too.
Thank you, Kristen. Commissioners, any questions for Kristen at DOA?
I don't have any further questions. She answered a lot of I had the opportunity to talk.
So Kristen, probably the process, if you didn't hear it from us, is we'll amass some questions for your organization after tonight. Get them probably to Bailey. Bailey will probably be the correspondence to each organization, and then we'll move down the path from there. Thanks for clarifying where your needs were going forward, and we'll send you what we need to hear, at least from each one of us, I suspect. that seem like a fair approach, commissioners?
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you all. I appreciate it as well.
Thanks. That moves us to item 18, present for approval, the 2022 election cycle polling locations pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 22-12-101B. Jackie, please. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to discuss with you polling places to be designated by the county clerk, who has published at least once in a newspaper of general circulation in the county within 2 weeks prior to a statewide election, and notifying the party chairpersons of this request. Pursuant to Wyoming Statute 22-12-101B, the Board of County Commissioners of Albany County will consider the following polling locations for the 2022 election cycle at their regular meeting to be held in room 105 in the Albany County Courthouse on May 17, 2022, commencing at 6 p.m. Anyone interested in commenting on the proposed polling places are encouraged to attend. I present to you for your consideration the following polling places. For District 13, Precinct 1, the Laramie High School. For District 13, Precinct 2, Spring Creek School. For District 13, Precinct 3, the Laramie High School. For District 14, Precinct 0, the Albany County Fairgrounds, Laramie Peak Fire Hall, Rock River Town Hall, Sebille Wildlife Research Unit. For District 14, Precinct 2, Slade School. For District 14, Precinct 3, Slade School. For District 45, Precinct 1, Spring Creek School. For District 45, Precinct 2, Lincoln Community Center. For District 46, Precinct 1, Linford School. For District 46, Precinct 2, Linford School. For the other districts within District 46, Precinct 0, the Albany County Fairgrounds, Centennial School, and Harmony School. I am also asking that you designate the election building as the absentee polling place, as absentee commences on July 1st, 2022, for your consideration.
Thank you, Jackie. Are there any questions or polling comments? I know you've been very kind and patient. Those are the polling sites before us right now. Yes, sir, please.
My name is Thomas Quentin Staples, and I just wanted to make a point that the arm of the government can reach out to the most remote and sparsely populated area of Wyoming to tell you where you can hunt and what you can do on your land. And so I'm against closing any polling places and would rather see more opened up. That's my comment.
Okay, and which polling places are you suggesting?
I live 1 block from Rock River Town.
Okay.
You need my address?
No.
Okay.
You certainly don't.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir, please.
Just want to be sure, Albany, North Albany, and those areas, are they going to be absentee? Or the far reaches 14-0, will they have to drive to Rock River?
14-0 is either Rock River Town Hall, Laramie Peak Fire Hall, Sebille Wildlife Research Unit, Albany County Fairgrounds, so any of those places.
Okay, so there used to be one, Shirley's Cabin. We're not going to do that again?
It's not for us today. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, yes, sir, please.
I'm Bob Corliss. My wife and I live in Albany County, western side.
Just want to thank you guys for considering reinstating the polling places that have been in the past. I understand probably for the most part, few changes, but I understand the 2020 COVID issue, fairgrounds, but I actually went around and there was a little petition and just went to my neighbors, both Democrat, Republican, both sides of the aisle, and not a single one did not sign that petition to have it reinstated. So I just give you a little spot of Albany County, and I just went out to my neighbors and said, hey, would you be willing to sign this to reinstate all these different polling places? Everyone wanted it. Convenience, sociability, availability for voting and the rights that they have. They really felt like COVID really restricted them. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for Jackie for reinstating this.
Thanks, Bob. You better shit. Yes, ma'am, please.
It seems, I'm Juanita Angen from Centennial. It seems I am the delegate from our community to say thank you, Jackie. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Kathy. We're very happy to have this done.
Thanks, Juanita. Anything else? Commissioners, any questions for Jackie? Jackie, I have one question. Do we need in this to put the absentee ballot as the annex? Does that need to be part or is that separate?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your question. That can be inclusive with all of the other polling places. It does not have to be separate.
Okay, do we have to state it as the annex as being the absentee voting spot, or how would you like us to make it?
You can state it as the absentee polling site if you so choose. And it is one that we will use, as I mentioned, for early absentee voting.
Okay. Okay, Jackie.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I move that we approve the 2022 election cycle polling locations pursuant to Wyoming Statute 22-12-101B and include the elections bill right here as the early and absentee voting location.
Second.
Is it moved and seconded? Any further discussion?
I wonder if it would be helpful for the public to understand why the polling locations were curtailed or reduced in the last cycle, because I think there's been some misunderstanding about that. And I think that the misunderstanding has been pretty harmful to the discourse. And I'm happy to make that presentation. It was not the desire of the clerk or the commissioners or any of the parties or the precinct committee people to reduce the number of polling locations. That was based on a health directive given by the state health officer, Alexia Harris, in 2022. I don't think that any of us found it to be something that we wanted to do or liked to do. And I'm not even sure that we understood when you bring everybody from all over the county into a central place, maybe that increases potential exposure to COVID. So whatever we've learned since then, I'm not sure that we had the choice at the time. Also, I will say that and my brain, it's kind of like squirrel, but I was going to say something very important.
It wasn't any form of disenfranchising the voter.
Well, it may have had that effect, but that was not the intent. And of course, you weren't on this board,
Well, maybe it'll come back to you. It looks like Roxy has her hand up here.
It was pretty frustrating for me to have to do that. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. One of the issues was that most of the poll workers who volunteer or who get paid the little per diem to work as election judges are in the silver-haired crew. You know, you don't have a lot of people in their 20s or 30s, and because aged people, seasoned people have it, you know, we're at higher risk of COVID. In addition to the mandate from the state health officer, the county clerk was having a very hard time finding people to help her run an election. It was very difficult because people who were in a high risk group are the ones who typically volunteered, you know, and sign up to do that. So there was this convergence of events that made it really hard to run an election. And the county clerk's office ran a straight, honest election that complied with state statute, the way the legislature says you have to run an election. There weren't any liberties taken by the county clerk in the process. And while some people may not have liked the outcome, there are a lot of different elements at play that made the outcome be the way that it is, and it mostly had to do with voter turnout, not process in the clerk's process. The challenge is that there have been a lot of accusations against the clerk that are not fair, made by people who aren't there to observe. But I would challenge anyone who has questions about the election process to become an election judge. The parties are only allowed to designate one poll watcher at each location. So that's a different, like, you just can't file 80 people in there to watch it. You have to designate a poll watcher from each party. But as far as election judges go, I don't think that there's a shortage of people of interest this time around, like there was for all the reasons I stated on the last time around. What I'm going to say is that anybody who watches the process will come away impressed. Just because you may not like the outcome doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the process. It probably means that there's an issue with turnout, and this county is fairly evenly divided, politically speaking, as far as party affiliation. So that can be expected. And whoever works the hardest probably gets the votes. Whoever's the most motivated and gets turnout to happen. So I am making this statement specifically to defend Jackie, because she's done this 30 times, 16 times in 32 years. And anytime there have been recounts, I don't know, what was the biggest margin of error ever in a recount? Have you ever been one vote off?
This last 2020 election.
So that is just, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Commissioner Richardson. Roxy, I see your hand up. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And good evening, Commissioner Gosar and commissioners. I just want to let you know that there were numerous people who in the community, especially in the rural community, came to me with some concerns about not having the polling places open as they were prior to pre-COVID. And they came to me as the chairman of the GOP party. So I just want to thank and commend Ms. Gonzalez and her staff, because they met with us on a couple of occasions to talk about some of the obstacles that they were going through and the plans for this election cycle. And we did tell Ms. Gonzalez and her staff that if there was anything that we could do to help make it go smoother, like providing more poll watchers, election judges, we are here to help with the process, because I know that it was a very difficult election cycle last year, and it was difficult for staff and the community. So I just want to thank you all, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Roxy. I appreciate it. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Jack, for your work. Appreciate it. And let's hope that this year, more turnout, more people vote in a democratic process than was last in 2020. The more, the better, right? So present for approval, item 19, agreement between the Board of Commissioners of County of Albany, Wyoming and Albany County Weed and Pest for the purchase and use of licenses for the county's Environmental Systems Research Institute, ESRI software. Jennifer.
So this is the licensure for weed and pest to use the county's ESRI software, which is a GIS software that weed and pest uses in their activities throughout the county. And because they are not within the county as the other departments like road and bridge and things are, the assessor's office through Karen came to us and asked us to put together a license agreement for them at the rate of $800 per year per license.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Jennifer or Karen?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is this the first time they're gonna use ESRI, or have they been?
No, it is not. They do use ESRI products right now. It's just an older version. To my understanding, previously GIS director was able to give them the license and they just used it.
Gotcha. So it's kind of a continuation of what has been.
Yes, it is. And to be able to upgrade them to a newer version. So
Are you able to import their layers of data? You know, like in Esri, it's cool. You can stack and sort data to make all kinds of cool, fun pictures. It's pretty cool. And I'm just curious if you're able to, if the new version can swallow up that stuff and make it work with all the other things that all of our other layers.
Yeah, they'll be able to work with whatever layers they work with.
Gotcha. Cool.
And Jennifer, this is a 2-year agreement or year, or I thought I read like 2 years.
I believe this one is a 2-year
This one
agreement.
is just a 2-year.
And then at the next meeting, we'll have the master agreement for ESRI needs renewed this year.
Okay.
And so, but this agreement that you have for weed and pest is backdated to March going forward. Yep. And then we'll get it updated. The agreement with the city that we have is based off of the main renewal contract. So we wanted to, that's why we moved the city off of this meeting so that we can get it with the main renewal contract for ESRI at the next meeting.
Super.
So is this, I mean, I'm gonna guess that when we license ourselves to use Esri, there's a certain number of licenses or workstations or something. And
So we have what's called the Regional Enterprise Governmental License Agreement. I had to think about the acronym in my head. You're fine. And so, and about 9 years ago, from what I can tell from the contracts, this county and the city combined to form this Regional Enterprise Governmental License Agreement because it was less expensive for both the county and the city. And with it, there are plenty of licenses for all the uses within the county, as well as our agreement with the city provides them 1,500 licenses, which is sufficient for what they need it for on the city side. And as far as total licenses, I'm not certain.
we could never approach the total number of licenses.
I don't believe so.
I don't believe we would ever.
It's interesting. I guess I don't really understand why we would have to have an agreement, you know, some sort of an MOU or a contract. We pass to use our licenses.
Because
Can't they just use them?
well, but they're not a county entity or board that is created under statute.
Gotcha.
So they're associated with the county, but they're not one of the statutorily created entities.
So it's like allowing special districts to use Esri. Now I understand. Thank you.
All right. I'd entertain a motion for 19, please, if there's no more questions.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve item 19 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 20 was removed from the agenda. Item 21, present for discussion. Ivinson Memorial Hospital's response to the use of Medicaid pricing, $754 a day for renewal agreement with Ivinson Memorial Hospital for services pursuant to Wyoming statute 25-10-101 to 25-10-127, rather than current Medicare pricing at $1,355 a day, and direct county staff on how to proceed. Jennifer.
Thank you, Chairman Gosar. So at a prior meeting, we had a discussion that in calls through with various other state civil attorneys and county attorney departments. There was a discussion that several of them use or reimburse their county hospitals at the Medicaid rate, which is $754 a day. And we also, about the same time, got the contract from WBI, which utilizes that $754 a day Medicaid rate should Albany County send Title 25 patients up to WBI. So after our discussion last time, I reached out to the hospital and said, based on this, because our contract is up for renewal in June, I sent the email and said, after discussion with the commissioners, they've authorized us to amend the contract down to the $754 a day Medicaid rate. And other than that, and the date changes, those are the only changes I've made. And then I got a response back from the CFO at the hospital, Mr. Vance, which I believe was included in your packet, where he just said the hospital can't do the Medicare rate and they would honor our existing contract while we went to find another agency to house our Title 25 patients for that period for which the county is responsible for paying.
How nice.
Yes, so then I wasn't certain what to do, so I put it on your agenda so you could give me some.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks for the research. Commissioners, any thoughts? I have a couple, but go on ahead. You might already have those same thoughts, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's not being a very good neighbor, right?
Well, I guess for me, Jennifer, if you could do a little more research, how many counties pay the Medicaid rate versus the Medicare rate? There's a serious difference. And for anybody who's not familiar with this is an involuntary placement in Title 25 mental health hold into the hospital for up to 72 hours, I believe. And so the county pays that. It is mandated by the state to pay that to the hospital. So the Medicaid rate is a Wyoming federal government program. Medicare, of course, is a federal government program. And that in there lies the difference in pricing. So that would be a question I would have. And then the second question is, are county hospitals bound to take Title 25, just like we're bound to pay for Title 25? Those are the two questions I have.
Well, and we have a contract we have a sort of a max out of pocket, right? So I don't really understand why they would, why it would matter to them what the rate is when we have a max that we would pay. Like if we consume, what are we at right now? $175,000?
Our cap is 175 generally. This year it's 204,500 because we were working through all of that back billing. We have not utilized all of our funds that are in there. We will be substantially under the $175,000. The reason the hospital is concerned is it is a difference of $601 per patient per day. The difference between the Medicaid rate and the Medicare rate.
So that's interesting because to me, I know that hospitals, that medicine, when they're billing indigent care, they want to take that they're not going to get paid for. They don't bill it at the cost. They bill it at the maximum chargeable, because they want the number to look big when it comes to how they put write-downs on their charity care. So I don't know if you x-ray somebody, and I don't know how much it costs to provide an x-ray, but probably the overhead. Your person is staffed, the x-ray machine is bought and paid for, it's there. And maybe the x-ray only costs $7.50. Do you know what I'm saying? But if you want to bill it at $800, knowing that you're going to take a write down, then you get to say, we provide all of this charity care, and you're taking a write down on an accrual basis rather than a cost basis. Does that make sense? And I think that that's what's happening here.
And I don't have any idea how the hospital does their billing or those things. Under the statute, the county pays for the room and care at BHS, and we only pay medical costs associated if for whatever reason they are there, they need additional medical costs that are directly related to their reason for being in BHS. The county is liable for those. We have not, that I'm aware of, been charged for those. I believe they're included. We haven't had anywhere in recently that I am aware of where we had someone who had substantial injuries or something that
required some
that were part of the Title 25 hold. So, we are not liable for other care. So if somebody was in there and had a heart attack or something, that is not part of that Title 25 system.
Right.
And as far as the billing goes, I don't know how they do that. I know Mr. Banz's email said that they, even at the Medicare rate of $13.55 a day, that they are losing money on a per patient basis on the Title 25 ones. But I don't have detailed numbers from the hospital end about what the actual cost is.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure, please.
So my thoughts on that are, if we're set at a max of 175, and maybe some years we don't expend it all, we don't get to that number. Because we already, my understanding, and if I try to put myself in the brain of the CFO of the hospital or whatever, and the attorneys, they basically want to get as close to the max as they can when they're providing a certain care. So maybe it's not reasonable for us to ask for a double hedge. We already have a maximum that we could pay. We have a blank signed check in the county checkbook for $175,000. And then we're saying that, we basically want to get almost double the care potentially, within that amount. But I don't know that it makes all that much difference when we have that hedge, because if we ever exceed it, the hospital carries that when they don't bill us anymore. So the question is that I'm trying to remember how many years we've ever gone beyond that, because it used to be 150 and maybe 125.
So last year when we were cleaning up the billing, because last year this commission paid substantial amounts of Title 25 bills because they had not been billed and or paid in a timely manner previously. So we caught them all up last year and included as part of our new contract that the billing and payments would be timely. And in those
We
years,
can't blow up our budget
right?
by taking a certain budget year expense and submitting to us in the next budget year.
Right.
There has to be a limit to it.
So when I went back through, I believe it was 2020, the end of the 2021 fiscal year, approximately last spring. And there, I sorted out billing back to 2018 or 2017. And when I went through the bills that we paid last year, plus the bills we had paid ongoing through those prior years, and allocated them into their respective years had they been billed in a timely manner and paid in a timely manner. We did not ever exceed the cap that was set for any of the years.
Whether it was 125 or 150 or 175.
I believe all the years that I did were at 150. I don't think any of them I didn't go as far back as when the cap was 125. But there was not a year that we exceeded it. There was a 1 or 2 years where we got close within $10,000 or so, but never exceeded.
So I guess the follow-up to me, Jennifer, the 175 is a goal. But for instance, if we had a whole bunch of people that shot us past 175, we're still legally on the hook to pay for those people. Is that correct?
Not under our contract terms with the hospital.
Really? Awesome.
We say, we're giving you this check, this $175,000, which I will go and do the research with the other counties in the state about how they pay for their Title 25. When I was talking on our most recent call, there were only a couple attorneys on there. Sheridan County gives their hospital a lump sum of money, which is $175,000 or $200,000. He didn't have the number right off the top of his head. And then their hospital doesn't bill them. They don't do anything. They say, you take care of it. We don't want to see anything. Sublette County said, we have more money than time and we just pay the bills when they come in, and their sheriff's office is the one who keeps track of all of those things. So their county attorney wasn't aware. And Uinta County has a county facility that is a mental health facility that they contract with a local mental health provider to provide staffing when they have residents.
Okay.
But I will do additional research on
And so
it.
Jennifer, basically the response from the hospital is we'll honor this contract while you have the time to search out other facilities?
Yes.
When there are no other facilities. So they're saying,
WBI and Casper, but the cost, I talked to Sheriff Applehans about the cost to transport and the cost, his cost to transport somebody to WBI and Casper would exceed the savings that we would get between the $601 a day savings. I have a call into CRMC and we've been playing phone tag in Cheyenne to see what their rates are and what their availability would be. So I will work on that as well.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
Yes.
well, and so the questions that the chairman asked were, is our hospital obligated to provide the care?
Yes.
Beyond, because it's kind of like indigent care,
Correct.
So,
And we have the mill rate that we allocate to the hospital every year.
Sheriff has an idea.
Sheriff has an idea.
To give you guys a little bit of clarification with this and talking with Jen, under some of the legal research that I've done, I work with the law, but I'm not a lawyer. It does seem in my reading of the law that the hospital does have to provide that care under Title 25. And so in terms of negotiating the rate, they may be able to do so, but under my purview of the law, they still have to take those Title 25s. To give you an idea of what those costs would be if we were to transport to Casper or Cheyenne. Title 25 is a civil statute, but it still falls under detainees. So we would have to have 2 people transport that individual to the facility, have the facility uphold a portion of that Title 25 in terms of getting the initial, basically initial intake and upholding the Title 25 detention. That takes time, and then housing them in the behavioral health facility there as well, and then return back. And so our deputies get paid roughly about $62.50 per hour. You can do the math for 2 deputies, 2.5 hour trip to Casper,
fuel,
1 hour trip there and back, plus their time at the hospital. Our hospital, to be honest, sometimes is a bit slow, and I imagine other hospitals that are a little bit busier in other towns will be not nearly as quick as well. And so the overtime rate racks up there, plus our fuel costs.
Well, it puts you in the healthcare business, mental health business instead of law enforcement. Because if you're going to send 2 people to Casper, it
forces us.
Then we're not staffing our own county.
One of the main reasons why I'm speaking up is because this actually forces us into a part of the criminal justice system that I don't want to get into, where we're making financial decisions based on either criminal decisions or care decisions of the people that we get involved with. So Title 25 is there to where we can make
a civil detention, not go on the criminal record, and get somebody the help they need. And by placing them in the hospital, they get that help that they actually need. I don't want to be forced into a situation where I have to find a different facility. One of those facilities would be my detention center. Since I've taken over, I've tried everything I could to take people who need mental health help and not arrest them criminally. Detention center. Detention center is not a mental health facility. It's not a hospital. It's not a clinic. It's not a detox center in any way, shape, or form. And so the reason why I'm speaking up today is, like I said, I would encourage you guys to take a hard look at this and leverage what you have with the hospital for them to be a community partner so that we can still provide quality care, but not resort to some of these other options that we have that isn't going to help the public in any way, shape.
Was a danger of driving to Casper in December, right?
In the middle of January, if roads are closed, all of a sudden, then we are in a bit of a bind on trying to find a place. We, in some of these detentions, depending on the legality of it, we're not able to cross state lines.
Well, another consideration is that the mental health care and the behavioral health unit at Ivanson is considerably better than what is offered at WBI.
It is very, very good.
WBI is more of a holding place and isn't very therapeutic at all. So if the costs are at all similar, but it could have been nice for the hospital to say, yeah, we'll do it at the Medicaid rate instead of the Medicare rate, but I kind of think we're stuck with what we're stuck with.
I would highly encourage you guys to leverage what you have and negotiate with the hospital so that we can continue and utilize the hospital. We can also talk a little bit in those negotiations with the hospital about some of the procedures that they have in their emergency room of actually sending us Title 25. So we've had conversations with other entities in the county of making sure that they're following the proper procedures in terms of accepting those Title 25s. I would encourage that conversation also with this negotiation. Also make sure that the county is, for lack of a better word, getting what they're paying for.
I would greatly appreciate that intel, Sheriff Avalanche, and then we'll get a solution here. That I'm fairly certain, and so much of it is communication, and so we'll get it worked out with Ivanson, and I feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that 175 is the cap, because if it wasn't, then this makes a real difference. Budget, yeah.
Like I said, I encourage the full legal review. Like I said, yeah, I have good knowledge of the law, but limited as well. So,
thanks, Sheriff, for that input.
No problem. Jennifer, do you have what you need on that?
I do, thank you.
Thank you for doing the work. Thank you for putting it on our agenda. I really do appreciate that. Item 22, present for approval, memorandum of understanding to the Board of Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, by and through the Albany County Human Resource Office and the Laramie Regional Airport Board for HR services. Christina, are you still with us? She might not be with us, but for what I know, I guess this is just a continuation of the HR services that have been offered to the airport board, and we will talk about the fair board and the library board.
Yes, I'm here, Pete. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. It's a little late. There was a little break between when you last were and now. So go ahead and give us a little bit of the background on the HR, if you would, please.
Yeah, so we've had the HR contract with the library, or I'm sorry, with the airport since 2019. I did services for them back in 2018, but we made it official in 2019. So I've served in their HR capacity every year since. It is a renewal of the contract. The only changes to the contract from this year to last year is we increased their service fee from $5,000 plus taxes and fees to $10,000 plus taxes and fees. Part of the rate increase is due to the amount of time that I've spent out at the airport. It has been pretty significant over the last 6 months to a year, as you guys know, due to some of the things that are occurring out there. And so the $5,000 increase is no surprise to Miss Terrell, and she is aware of it. So that is the only major change to the contract.
Thank you, Christina. Commissioners, any questions for Christina?
Looking at the contract, is that in there, Christina?
It is. It's under the payment schedule.
Okay, I see it, yeah.
And the question I would have, Mr. Chapman, is, so the contract is, the airport board would pay more for HR services. Is there any opportunity for that to go down in the future? Or at least freeze for a long time, as the demands on your time become less, as we work through these issues.
Yeah. Was that to me or to the chairman?
It's
Sorry.
to you.
Okay.
So the question is there an opportunity, as we work through these things for you to spend less time over there and maybe, because they do need to pay for what they're getting, but also maybe they won't need as much,
Correct. Yeah, and so it's not a forever thing. The contracts are year to year. They have not had an increase since the inception of their contract, although my workload has continued to rise out there. So it can definitely go down depending on the overall need and if the scopes change and all of those factors. So absolutely.
Perfect. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Christina. I take a motion for item 22, please, if there are no further questions.
I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding between the Board of Commissioners of Albany County, Wyoming, by and through the Albany County, Wyoming Human Resources Office and Laramie Regional Airport Board for Human Resource Services.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 23, present for approval memorandum of understanding between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, by and through the Albany County Human Resource Office and the Albany County Fair Board for HR services. I guess, Christina, you've explained kind of what you do. Any changes to this contract from the last time we signed it?
Yeah, the only increase or the only change is an increase from $5,000 to $7,000 with the taxes and fees, again, due to the increased amount of work and time that we've been spending out there. I don't foresee, to answer Heber's question, I don't foresee it being a forever thing. As it changes, it can go down, but we are spending some more time on their needs. And so the increase is there, but no other changes to the contract.
Thank you, Christina. Commissioners, any questions? I'd entertain a motion for 23 then, please.
I move that we approve item 23 as presented.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 24, present for approval memorandum of understanding between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, by and through the Albany County Human Resource Office and the Albany County Library for HR services. Same question, Christina. Any changes for the library?
No changes to their contract. However, we did make an addendum mid-year last year, and so those changes are noted on this contract, which was we reduced some of the services that I'm doing for them simply due to ease and how their payroll systems work. And so when we made the reductions and changed some of the services, Rachel was asked about if we needed to adjust the payment, and she said no. So while we reduced some of the services, we did not adjust the payment or lower their payment per her and I conversation. So theirs is remaining the same.
Commissioners, any questions? I entertain a motion for 24 then, please.
I move that we approve item 24 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all is in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 25.
Here's the wording on that. That's easy.
easier for you, I typed it up.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Kayla. Present for approval, letter to Nancy Bartholomew, Laramie City Clerk, to allow the Calverman 2 LLC doing business Calverman Steakhouse to apply for a catering permit for the Stage Point FCU member appreciation event at the Alice Hardy Stevens Center, 603 East University Avenue on June 2nd, 2022, from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Any questions? Any for Kayla? Entertain a motion for item 25.
I move.
That we approve item 25 as read.
Oh, you don't want to, you want to try to remember that?
I totally.
It's been moved, is there a second?
Yes, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Kayla.
Thanks.
Item 26, the new 26 is the work session budget set. Jackie, I think this might have been on your plate. Maybe Tracy, you have some input on this.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, on the original budget calendar, it is proposed that the Board of County Commissioners allow the clerk and treasurer to present preliminary proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 budget to the commissioners, elected officials, and department heads on Tuesday, May 31st. It is also requested on the calendar that we begin working on balancing the proposed budget the week of June 6th to commence on June 8th, because Tracy has her County Treasurer Association meetings. That time frame will not work for her, and certainly she is a vital component to the entire process. So at this time, we are respectfully asking if you can look at your calendars to see if we could start on Tuesday, May 31st, and whatever the preference of the Board of County Commissioners is, we can continue then the discussion on Wednesday, June 1st, or Thursday, June 2nd, or Friday, June 3rd, so that we can begin the process. And then we can continue with the process anytime after June 9th, when Treasurer Fletcher returns from her meetings.
Okay, so we want to start on Tuesday, the 31st.
Yes.
We got Tuesday, 31st open. How about you guys?
I do after probably 9:45. I have a mammogram that morning.
Okay.
And they're so far out.
Right.
That I really don't want to reschedule.
So it's just at 9 or 9:45?
That is at 9, but I do done at 9:30.
Could we go at 10? Start at 10?
Sure. 10 works. 10 works. Okay. So let's start at May 31st at 10. And then let's just run that through to 4 or 5. What is your, does that work? Tracy, will that work for you, or do you have to travel? You don't have to travel to the 6th and the 8th.
I leave actually town on the 5th for their first meetings on the Monday, the 6th.
Okay.
Allowing a longer day is much better than chopping up additional days throughout the week, if that works with the schedule that you have in front of you.
Yeah. Okay. And then how about the 1st? Is it the Wednesday, the 1st?
I'm ready.
How about you?
Actually, I have a dentist appointment on Wednesday, the 1st, that could jam me up, and those aren't easy to get.
Yeah.
So, you know, like,
When could you start?
well, I could, the problem is that it's at 10 a.m., right? So it goes from 10 to 11. You know, I probably need a whole hour. I've never had a cavity in my life. I only get my teeth cleaned. 47 years old, and I've never had a cavity.
You should not go.
So it means that there won't be any complications. It means that I get them free to come. But it's not a very convenient time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it totally breaks up the day. I would be fine to come early, but then basically everybody has to quit for a little bit, or, yeah, it's not very good. Or we could go start at 11, work through the afternoon or something.
Knowing that, what would be you guys' preference? It makes no never mind to me.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
if we're going to use the bulk of Tuesday, basically the presentation that Tracy and I would provide probably wouldn't be more than an hour at max. And so if you would like me to schedule those departments that have additional requests, maybe we can see what we can do on the 31st. And then if necessary, schedule additional time during that week or wait until June 9th, and it will allow us time to continue to update our numbers so that we're working off real numbers at all times.
Okay. Well, so you know, I'm the only thing that interferes with any of those days all week is that 1 hour's chunk of Tuesday. So I could go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's just, or
No, you're-
I'm
you
sorry,
said
Wednesday, but yeah, I could go Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and most all of Wednesday. So I don't have any limitations.
Actually, that might work well for me because looking at June 1st is when we do month end. And so Sunny wouldn't be able to join us with the budget, and she's an important part of my budget team on my side.
So would it help if we went on Tuesday, the 31st, and then the problem is that you have to have really fresh numbers.
Well, we would have super fresh ones for Thursday then.
So what if we didn't go on Wednesday and then we came back on Thursday? Because sometimes we ask you to crunch things and you just can't spin them back in real time. You have to have some space to work.
Actually, I think that would be really helpful because, May is one of our biggest revenue months outside of June. And that gives us time to do all the month-end processing and the mill levy distributions and come back with maybe a better cash on hand estimate.
How about Friday? Thursday, I'm releasing some Wyoming toads on June 2nd. And so I would love to do that, but I mean, you could cancel that.
I'm good with Friday too.
How about
Yeah, so
Friday?
totally
Friday
Friday.
is great.
Let's start Friday, 8 or 9. Which would you be your preference? 8,
9 is my preference.
Okay,
Me too.
Friday at 9. Okay, how about that? So let's do Tuesday, May 31st.
How late are we going on that?
4 or 5. So you have one preference one way or the other? 4:30?
How far?
Block out the whole day and see, and then
Yeah.
if you're done early, you can go early.
So let's go 9 to 4-ish, and then
We're
Friday,
doing 10.
or 10, we're doing 10 to 4-ish. Don't put anything at 4:30 unless you have something there. Do you have something at 4:30?
As it is, I'm not going to reschedule clients.
Okay, and then Friday we'll do 9 till 4 or 3, whatever. And then we could be done. We could be done, right? I want to be positive about that.
Okay.
I bet you we're gonna have to crunch and munch and come back on the 9th and tidy some things up.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your consideration and working with us.
Okay. That is 27. Set salaries for elected officials pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 18-3-107 AIII. So I guess just to give a little bit of the background, I wish we could do this after our budget, but we're not allowed by state statute to do that. The last time the county electeds were, their salaries were increased was 2015 for the 2016 year, if I remember correctly. Is that it? And so they currently stand at 85 across the board, with the exception of the attorney at 95,000 a year. Those salaries did not get any of the ARPA premium pay funding. They're not, we're not able to give cost of living adjustments to those salaries. So Christina at the HR did some research for us, and you have in front of you, I think, you had this piece, her recommendations. And so her recommendations are the sheriff moved from 85 to 125. The attorney, county attorney moved from 95 to 125. The coroner stay at 45,000 a year. Commissioners move from 30,000 a year to 35. A little addendum to that, we can make no more than the lowest paid county official, county employee. And so we are bound by that, which I think is a wonderful rule. And then the clerk, assessor, treasurer, and clerk of district court would be 95,000. Those are the recommendations. Those are certainly a starting point for the discussion. With those, that would add another 100,000-ish to our budget every year for the next 4 years. Just those 7 salaries. I guess if you count the commission as well. So anybody have any thoughts about that?
Well, while I appreciate Christina's work and all, it's just a proposal, and I actually have another proposal because I don't feel we need to do that big a jump right now. I don't think we can afford that big a jump right now, especially with the sheriff and the attorney. I would suggest that we keep the coroner at the 45. That's what she's earning right now because she's going to continue to be part-time. And I would propose to raise all elected official salaries from 85 to 90, those who are receiving it. So just actually across the board, everybody gets a raise of 5,000.
And the county attorney leave at 95.
No, everybody across the board would get 5,000.
Oh, so the county attorney would be at 100.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, just thank you for clarifying for that.
With the exception of the court.
With the exception of the coroner, and how about the commissioners?
Commissioners would get 5,000.
So it would be go to 35.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Richardson, any?
I have some thoughts.
Super.
I was elected in 14 and I never voted on salaries. So I think that you're off by 2 years. I think that it was voted in 13 to take effect in, after the 2014 election cycle. So it means 8 years of inflation. Now, this might be interesting to the public, all 4 of you who are in here, besides our own employees and whoever's online. Because the elections are partisan, and there's the process, it's actually a profession, right? It's a job. If you get elected to be the county treasurer, you are an accountant. But you happen to be an elected accountant instead of a hired one. Now, I don't say that commissioners fall in the same category as an assessor or a clerk or a coroner, or, our position is more political and it's more public service-ish than somebody who's making it their career to do the tax assessments and get so the challenge that we have is like when you take an attorney, attorneys can bill $300, $400 an hour. To be able to attract the caliber of attorney that we need, $100,000 isn't enough. As a matter of fact, in a lot of situations, I think even now, I don't know, this is a question for Jennifer, but I think that the deputies might make more, depending on how long they've been here. You guys kind of have a new crew. But if you had some experienced, you know, some deputies that were long in the tooth, they might make more than the county attorney, because the county attorney's salary is set by the commissioners. The county attorney has to pay attorneys a rate that they'll work for, right?
I can tell you right now, none of them are higher, none of the deputies are higher than the existing county attorney rate. I don't know about previously, but
Right.
as of right now.
Right, but, and that does not necessarily change my point.
Right, I mean, it depends
Right.
upon what's authorized.
Right. It might be useful to know that the legislature they've increased the amount that they'll match attorney salaries, right? So the state pays 50% of the county attorney's salary and deputies, right?
No, they pay
Or up to a point.
30,000 for, up to 30,000 for deputies, and they capped, I believe, the county attorney's salary at 50% or $50,000, whichever is less.
And now,
Or up, it can't be more than $50,000.
and now I think you're saying that's what they did, or that was what it was before?
I believe that's what they did now.
You're right. So the point is that we only have to spend 50 cents on the dollar to a point. So I don't love attorneys, but I want a good one, and I'm willing to pay for it. The other challenge, I guess, that we have is that when it comes to county employees, we can make adjustments in our pay or in compensation based on the market and our needs and people's performance, but you can't do that with elected officials, because elected officials our salaries are set by the commission, and then they wind up being set for a long time. So I'm going to say that if I were going to make a proposal, I would make the salaries 95,000 for all of the elected officials that aren't an attorney, a coroner, a sheriff, or a commissioner. You know, so that first column, I would leave that the way that it is. I would leave the attorney where it is. I would put the sheriff at 110. The coroner would not change, and I would leave the commissioners at 30. Reason I would is because this is not a career for us like it is for the sheriff, who is in law enforcement and a certified peace officer. I am not a certified commissioner. I'm just a knucklehead who managed to get elected. So, and maybe I know what I'm talking about, maybe I don't, and I think it's public service. So my proposal is that the 95,000 that's proposed in the first column, 110 in the second column, 125 in the third column. You know, the fourth coroner remains unchanged, and commissioners would remain unchanged. We would stay at 30.
Peter, we had a work session and you were sick, so
Yes.
I wanted to bring you up to speed of some of the conversation there. The attorney, he would definitely appreciate this raise, said that he was very strongly in support of a gradual build up to this 125K and not something immediate. He also wrote us an email and said that he would prefer to receive whatever the other elected officials are getting and no more as an increment. So if we decide on 10K, then he wants 10K.
Gotcha.
For the public.
What a sport.
Yeah, but I wanted to know, by raising commissioners' salaries, it would only be these two who would get the raise. I, being not up for reelection this time round, would not be eligible for the raise till the next time election came around. So it would only be the 5,000 for each of you.
So, and I guess I just have to keep my 2 cents in. We have not raised the lowest salary that we pay for the most junior employees since '92. So unless we're interested in moving them at least what we're interested in moving the upper end, we now make income disparity much bigger. And so I just seriously have a problem with that. I'm not saying anything about the people that service those positions, because for me, this isn't about the people in those positions. I think we have wonderful people in those positions, but we are setting it for the position. And likely there will be new people in probably half of those positions just by mere fact of retirement and some of that. So yeah, I'm with you with the commissioner salaries, guys. 30 grand, 35 grand, what does it make a difference? Doesn't make much difference to me. Coroner, I believe 45 is adequately paid. Yeah, I just can't make those jumps of $30,000 to $25,000. Because I think if we're gonna do that, then we should take the cook of $25,000, and that might be a doubling of the salary. And I think once you start doing that, now you have a unsustainable salary schedule. And yeah, I think we should step it up gradually. And Jennifer, if you correct me if I'm wrong, this could be for 4 years, and then in 4 years, another commission can set whatever schedule they want to set. Is that true?
Correct.
So that's my thought. I am amenable to maybe another 2,500 odd years to maybe, so going from 85 to 92.5, and doing that same amount for the county attorney, $7,500. But knowing that I will be asking for that at the bottom end too, because I don't believe you can raise the cook $2,000 and raise the head person $7,500. I just don't believe that. So it does make a difference for me. This is a larger conversation than just the elected officials like we're having here tonight, because we will be setting salaries coming up in the budget. So
I have a question.
Sure.
And this is a funny one. With respect to commissioner salaries, we are not allowed to pay more than the lowest paid employee, but we are allowed to be paid less than the lowest paid employee.
Correct.
In other words, the lowest, our salary isn't tied to the lowest paid employee. Other than we can exceed.
Correct. Right. That's correct.
Because I don't know, something about what you said made me go there in my mind. But
yeah, we're not tied. I'm just saying.
I don't know if that I asked myself that question.
Right, I'm just saying we have a 30,000 position right now. We have 85, so the difference between the top and the bottom is $55,000. If we raise the top to 110,000 and we keep it at 40,000, now we have a difference of 70 grand. So we've made the situation worse, in my mind. Now, other people might have a different perspective on that. But as I see 4 or 5 jobs open without any employees or anybody wanting to put in their name for that, and knowing that we haven't raised since the 90s for our entry level wages, that's my priority, and I've said that from the very beginning. But it doesn't make it right. It's just my priority.
Again, I don't think, I wouldn't be in support of doing the full 10,000 cost, because I think we can do that gradually. This is here for 4 years, whatever we said, and then 4 years it can be raised again. We haven't had the discussion yet as far as the employee salaries, and we really want to do good for them. That's going to cost us some money. I'd like to be on the conservative side. I could go 7,500.
So, acting like the chair, if I may.
Sure, please.
I think we're a 92.5 for, I guess, everybody, everybody but the coroner and the commissioners.
And the county attorney would have 7,500 on 95,000, so it would be 102.5. If my math.
So 92.5 for sheriff, clerk, assessor, clerk of district court, treasurer.
Everybody but the church.
Right. 102.5 for the attorney.
Yeah.
Well, he's a sport, because you want to know what? He could make double that out in the world. I mean, that is basically public service, and he's a good attorney.
Yeah. But I think we could say that probably for Sheriff Appleton.
Oh, sure.
And the clerk, and treasurer, assessor. So.
Yeah, that's why we don't want to get wrapped up in personalities and remember that it's the position.
Yeah, well, sure. And so the reason that I was proposing more is because if he decides not to run again, the county needs quality, like just because we could have a good attorney for chief doesn't mean that we will in the next cycle.
That's true.
Yep,
that's a good point.
So and then, but I would like to leave commissioners at 30. That's, I don't think we need a raise. This isn't our profession. This is, we work hard at it, but we have day jobs. So, and no one else has a day job this is their job. And our responsibility, and we're doing public service. So 92.5 for everybody, except the attorney, coroner, and commissioners. 102.5 for the attorney, coroner stays at 45, commissioners at 30. That's where I'm at.
So are you all right with that?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, I'm all right with that too. So do we?
Is that your motion?
Resolution?
Do we do this in a resolution?
We do.
You're gonna print it, aren't you?
I'm going to print it. I'm changing, I'm putting the numbers in right now, and I will print it and bring it back.
I think the challenge is that the inflationary pressures, the reason why I was willing to go further sooner is because nobody likes having this conversation. It's dicey for elected officials to give themselves raises, right? And it's hard for the public to see what the challenges are in attracting talent to these jobs. And as far as the pay disparity goes, I don't have the same angst as you. I don't think that the level of responsibility, a cook in the jail isn't bonded. The treasurer is, right? There's a different level of responsibility, expertise, and management that goes along with it. And then there's also a market. And I'm not sure that there are many places where somebody can get health insurance and retirement working in the food industry and work straight days, or whatever. So, in the competitive world, I guess I don't have the same angst as you, but I do think that we have some positions that are definitely underpaid, and that's why we can't attract talent to those, and we have a problem with.
Or we get
And we're
them,
gonna
but
fix
they
it.
only pay you and train and then move on,
Right.
and it costs us every time.
Yeah. And
You don't want to outsmart yourself by half.
right.
Yeah.
And inflation since 92, right? What was a gallon of milk in those times? And we are paying the exact same amount for those people doing those jobs. And for me, that's an oversight we have to correct. So I'll read the resolution. Thank you, Jennifer. God, that was quick. Resolution 2022-009, establishment of salaries for elected officials. Whereas pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 18.3-107 and Sequitur and Wyoming State Statute 74210B, the Board of County Commissioners of Albany County, Wyoming is charged with establishing salaries for the next elected term of office for the following county officials. And whereas the board met with county elected officials for this purpose and have approved the salaries of certain county elected officials as specified herein, now therefore it be it resolved that the salaries for the below Albany County elected officials shall be set for the period of January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2026 as follows. Albany County Clerk, $92,500. Albany County Treasurer, $92,500. Albany County Assessor, $92,500. Clerk of District Court, $92,500. Albany County Sheriff, $92,500. Full-time Albany County Prosecuting Attorney, $102,500. Albany County Commissioners, $30,000. Albany County Coroner, $45,000. Be it further resolved that such salary shall be paid in equal monthly allotments and shall not be increased during the period for which established. Be it finally resolved that all elected officials shall also be entitled to those benefits available to all county employees, dated this 17th day of May, 2022. I entertain a motion to adopt that resolution.
I move that we adopt resolution 2022-009. A resolution establishing the salaries for county elected officials.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate you guys' perspective. Appreciate the work. Christina and Jennifer and everybody who participated in that. Item 28, approved payroll and vouchers for May 2022. Can I entertain a motion for that?
I move that we approve the payroll and vouchers for May 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing that, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Seeing no more business before the Albany County Commission on May 17th, 2022. I move to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for joining us online. Thank you for your time this evening. Really do appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you maybe in our work session on the 31st. Thank you all. Drive safely.
So the 31st starts at 10, or was it 11?
And 10.